Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Prepper Post News, courtesy of Freedom Prepper and Freedom Roasters Coffee. Perrin Lovett here on Tuesday, January 26, 2021. I'd like to say hello to everybody watching this on YouTube, everybody watching this over at the Freedom Prepper community, which you need to join at freedomprepper.com, all the other places where we're seen visually, and of course to our friends listening to the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, the community, and a few other places. It's a great day this Tuesday. Cold. Actually, it's going to be warmer today, a little bit warmer yesterday. The featured story, which I ask you to freely comment about at YouTube and on the forums at the community. The dog who caught the car. Now, when I was a little boy, like a lot of people my age, I had a pet dog, and she was a beautiful sheepdog, a border collie, very intelligent, very sweet. And we lived out in the country, not far from a large research university, on the edge of a forest with many research fields all around. So, of course, border collies are known for their herding instincts, and luckily for her, in the fields, there were always cattle, heads of cattle wandering around, and she would sneak under the fence and indulge her instincts and chase them around. And every once in a while, a stray cow would come down the gravel road, and she would chase it too. Now, like a lot of dogs, she kind of assumed that cars are like animals, like cows, and she would chase them. And one evening, as the sun was setting, my dad and I were out in the, call it a field or a yard. We were out front, and she was in the road, and a small pickup truck. It was either a Ford Courier or a Chevy Love. Small truck came by, and she chased it, and she caught it, and we were shocked. I was very upset. The young man driving the truck was very upset. He drug her a little ways. Now, it had a happy ending. Just a couple of stitches and I guess a tetanus shot. She was all better. But she learned her lesson, and she stopped chasing the big animals with tires. Now, if a dumb animal with an extrapolatable human IQ of 35 or 40 can learn from her mistakes and stop doing dangerous things, then you would think that human beings with at least twice that much intelligence could do the same thing. And it appears that belatedly they can. Belatedly. But they're finding out that, like the dog, they've now caught the car, and they've helped us catch it too. There are a couple of stories floating around about people who voted for President Joseph R. Biden, the 46th president of the United States Empire, who now regret voting for him for a variety of reasons. And we had a discussion about this at the community this weekend. I don't have to use that as an example. I want to try to keep what we do at FPC a little bit private, just for members, which is why you need to join. But I found a great example quoted by Vox Day that reinforces the same point, and it's from Twitter. So make of this what you will. It's a response to a woman who is just shocked that she got what she wanted voting for Joe Biden. She tweeted out, "Jeremy just called and yelled at me. He said that everyone on the job site are freaking out, thinking they are going to lose their jobs. He's blaming me for voting for Biden. You know, I hated the way Trump acted. Is it true that Jeremy could lose his job?" And somebody responded, "Okay, first, I'm sorry Jeremy is likely losing his job. I'm going to be honest with you, though. You voted for this. You chased the car. I didn't, and neither did Jeremy, but we will be suffering. I always knew people would regret voting for Biden. I didn't think it would be day one. Biden probably won't hurt your feelings as much as Trump, but he will take your husband's job." So, and what we discussed at the community was not economics related. It was on another subject. But yeah, you got what you paid for, and now your industrial or your energy production jobs are probably going to be canned. Um, if you can get a job, you might, make $15 an hour minimum wage, stacking boxes or something, unless they get a robot to do that. And Scott actually sent me an article about grocery stores that are going to automated shopping carts that check you out instantly, and you can pay right there in the cart. No need to stop, no need to deal with an employee, ergo no need to pay an employee any minimum wage. So congratulations, America. This is now the USSA. It's what you voted for. Well, we say the voted for part. In law-free America, voting, it's a relief, really, that voting no longer matters. One more burden, kind of like the job, voting, jobs, why worry about it, things of the past. Here are some more regrettable stories in the news. The DNC had a field of choices. Every election, both sides of the uniparty put up a field of candidates. And like a voir dire process and jury selection, they relentlessly get rid of the better choices. In my opinion, and I actually wrote this up, I had recommendations for Democrats in 2020. Your two best choices were Uncle Bernie Sanders, believe it or not, and Tulsi Gabbard. And I thought that the two together would make an ideal team, and they would have, for the interest of the American people. Which of course is why they were immediately deep sixed, and the worst possible duo was paired up and installed by votes, of course. But Tulsi Gabbard was on Fox talking about the insurrection, the Great Reset, the police state, and all the rest of it, and she is extremely concerned about this coming Patriot Act 2.0 and domestic terror laws in the United States. Being a thinking person, she's thought through it, and she thinks very little of it. I've got a link there. All the stories are linked up at fp.com. Take a look at that. Take a look at the woman who could be your vice president, but is not. And by the way, yeah, if you remember the debates, she put Kamala Harris in her place fast. And Bernie did his part, showing up. This is the state of the media today. They, with the inauguration, the big story was Bernie's grumpy chick attire. His frumpy coat, and he's holding a coffee cup with his mittens on, kind of, got his Bernie look. We had fun with that, with some coffee-related shenanigans that we might share with you later. But take a look at that. Also, keep your eyes open overseas. There's always some international story that kind of shows a little preview of what we're going to see, what we're already seeing. Political surveillance. We know what's coming here. It's already upon us. Heritage Americans are, in the words of the president, thugs, racists, Nazis, terrorists, and extremists. And so it is in Germany with the AfD. That's the party that represents Germans in Germany. And of course, they're now labeled extremist because they represent Germans in Germany, an insane concept. The government is now going to start spying on them, and I'm sure they already have been, but it's an official policy now. I guess the good news for us, and this is an NPR story, the good news for us is right now there is no party that represents Americans, so I guess we dodge a bullet on that. They'll just spy directly on us. Got a story about that too. But from Germany also, there's always a ray of hope. A district court in Germany had a criminal case about somebody violating one of these prison-style lockdowns because of the coronavirus. And they struck down the lockdown. They said it's unconstitutional. Mass lockdowns are for prison populations, not the general populations. They acquitted the suspect and canned the law, at least in that district. I'm not exactly sure how the German judiciary works. Honestly, it has to work better than what we have here, because this, again, is law-free America with a K. Moving on to other parts of our government, Comrade President Joseph R. Biden, the 46th president of the failed and, let's say, over United States of America, wants to reopen the government torture and child indoctrination centers as fast as possible. Part of his 100-day plans to wreck what's left. He wants to get the schools open. Schools near you may be open, partly. It's schools are over. Let's just say government schools in this country are dead. But in many places, the teachers and the teachers' unions just don't want to go back to work. Why? Well, because they're getting paid and they don't want to work for their pay. It's really easy to put up some PDFs and check in via Zoom with the handful of kids that respond, throw some grades in a book, press enter and be done with your day. They don't want to go back in the schools and do anything. If nothing else, it would require getting in a car and driving to work. They say that they're afraid of catching the coronavirus, even though there's a vaccine and studies show that kids don't spread it. Mask work, right? Social distance, all that stuff. Take a look at this Zero Hedge. It's more of the dogs catching the car, and in this case, maybe the car went off the road because the teacher union dogs got in the way. I don't know. It's a mess, and it's not going to get any better. But there's a buildup underway. You can see it clear as a bell. The mainstream media, and I've got a link from one of the sources at Microsoft News, MSN for MSM. They're now admitting openly that the January 6th hoax insurrection at the Capitol was a setup for mass attacks on the rights of heritage Americans. They're not even trying to hide it. And people are starting to ask. I know we've all been suspicious. It is okay to be suspicious, just like it's okay to hope for the best. People are wondering if it was all a setup, not just the peaceful protest and the reaction thereto, the overreaction at the Capitol, but was Donald Trump part of the setup? Was the plan an elaborate ruse to throw us off the rails? Maybe. A guest columnist at Ann Barnhart's site makes a pretty compelling case. I want you to take a good long look at that. It's a little too long to quote through here, but there is a suspicion that maybe we've been had. Maybe we have. But even if we were had, Trump still did us a tremendous favor by, if the blinds are not off you now, then you're blind without blinders. There's no question about who we are and who stands against us. And we owe Trump that, if nothing else. And, we owe the establishment. We need to be thankful for them for oppressing us, because when you're oppressed, at least you know it. Now, here we go. We had a military that surrounded the Capitol, and a lot of people honestly had high hopes that the military would intervene and save what's left of, call it the Republic, the democracy, the empire, whatever. They didn't. But the Wall Street Journal reveals that they have been spying on us. All part of that run-up. Spying on us via our cell phones. All these smartphones, constantly tracking. All the apps are tracking. And these apps, they're private corporations, which is a misnomer. Corporations are just government entities, dear libertarians. These government entity corporations collect all this data on you, and then they sell it on the open market. You're the product, and they're selling you. And the military intelligence agencies stepped in and bought batches of this stuff. They don't need a warrant to spy on you if the information is commercially available, if you willingly provide it to them. Nothing is going to be done about that. It will continue, and it will get worse. But I've got another story coming up that, even as bad as it will be, it's not going to be that bad. History always repeats. It's repeating itself right now in spectacular fashion. And here's a hopeful note. No matter how this turns out, we have front row seats to a massive transition, shifting of the epochs in the story of human history. But most people, via poor education or lack of interest or just plain stupidity, remain ignorant of most of history, which is a horrible, horrible way to live your life because, as Cicero and many other historical figures have said, those who fail to understand history are doomed to keep repeating it, including its mistakes. Got a great column from Uns. It's about 2,000 words. Check that out. Really touches home. It's about a guy who knows history and lives in a world of people who don't, and he's constantly frustrated by their repeating of the mistakes. Take a look at that. And also take heart, dear patriots. The military is not doing anything to defend you. They are, in fact, spying on you. But if you dig deep, as a matter of fact, if you just meet and talk to some of them, you kind of get some reassurance. Why? Well, because the Pentagon, the CIA, and the RAND Corporation, they constantly run simulations of everything. And they have determined over and over that as powerful as they are, as much money as they waste every year, as many bombs and planes and tanks as they have, they're pretty ineffective. They haven't won a war in decades. And the last one that they won, they only did so with massive Soviet assistance. They can't beat unorganized goat herders in the hills of Afghanistan. And the Atlantic has a story about that. They also run simulations about martial conflicts closer to home, and they conclude they can't win those either, which is most reassuring for whatever reason. But in Afghanistan, 5 or so years ago, some battles took place that I don't remember reported anywhere. And I'm surprised that the Atlantic let this one through. Normally they're floating, future trends like, haha, cannibalism is coming. But they did a good job with this one, talking about a city in Afghanistan that fell. And of course, all we had there were a couple of special operations units. And they did a heroic job trying to help the whatever passes for a government in Afghanistan, in Kandahar, retake the city. And things started out as a mess. They continued as a mess. 5 years later now, they're still a mess. 1,000 years ago, that town was a mess. 1,000 years from now, it will probably be a mess. This is why you don't go meddling in a place called the Graveyard of Empires. But take heart, read that story, take heart if you read it the way that I did. Moving on to general societal topics. They're saying the end of March. It's probably going to be more like the beginning of April, sometime around Easter. The 2020 census reports are going to come out for the United States population. The estimates have already flowed out, and they show, I've got a Pew Research story about which states lost and gained population. I believe it's 16 states, and they're ones that you would suspect, like New York, lost population. Some of them lost a considerable chunk of population. This is all just stuff to factor into your decision-making skills or processes, if you have any, about where you might want to relocate. Just little things to consider. I'm going to reverse the order here. Regardless of what your plans are, do make sure that you are in the best shape you can possibly be in. Something tells me that's going to be critically important. And the best shape, you don't have to be, able to compete with the Navy SEALs. You don't need to be a bodybuilder or a power lifter. Just get in shape. Study Finds has an article that dispels a couple of myths. One of them is that you can be fat and fit. And I still stick to that because I've known some big heavy guys that were fit as a fiddle. But it's so rare, it's so anomalous, it's not a thing, and it's not good. Nor is being too thin. Just duck or smart page around for height and weight standards, some calculators. Do yourself a favor, get in the best shape that you can. The big rules are 1, eat less, and 2, move more. Beyond that, try to get as strong as you can, build up as much stamina as you can, and it may be time to learn to take and to throw a punch. Just you know what you're doing. Look around. Okay, back to Europe. Denmark. This affects all of society. You know, in terms of human sexuality, our globalist friends tell us that anything and everything goes. Not only does it go, it's better and you should participate in it, except for normal relations between men and women. Those are strictly forbidden. Denmark passed a law. I didn't look into it, but the Sun story, make of that what you will, said it is to it's allegedly to prevent rape, which is a good thing. They already have laws. I know that they have laws against rape. What this is it enforces mandatory consent for consensual sex. So that's, make of that story what you will. The main story is somebody created an app. There's an app for that. You can come up with a little contract. You know, you meet the woman of your dreams, the guy of your dreams. You want to do what comes naturally between a man and a woman, presumably within the confines of marriage. And so you have your contract on the app. So there's no question consent was given and signed off for. It's exactly what the law calls for. And of course, the people behind the law are highly upset now that people are trying to obey it. They say it's confusing getting the express legal consent required for legal consent for something that really doesn't require legal consent. These matters of the heart. Well, this is what you get when you have people who have no heart trying to tell us how to live. They absolutely, unequivocally hate us. And that takes us into the fun-loving, comfortable final word of the day, war. When I say they hate us, they hate us. They want us dead or enslaved. Here's another story the mainstream media has been very, very silent about. Part of the war against us is a war on all things Christian. It's not a war on Christmas, it's a war on Christ and on his followers. It's real. How do we know? Well, recently, someone threw a bomb into a California Baptist church. A bomb is a weapon of war. If bombs are being thrown around and detonating, you may have a war on your hands, whether you like it or not. I don't like it. Why? Why would someone bomb a church? Well, they hate Jesus Christ. They hate the people who follow him. The excuse given is because this Baptist church pushed the extreme view of things like sodomy. And from what I read, the extremist view is the express opinions given by Paul, the examples of Christ, and the tangible, not saying anything but doing things, examples of God the Father. That's extremism, that's intolerance, that's thuggish behavior. It's probably white supremacy, and the new administration is going to stamp it out. Their shock troops are already bombing the churches. So, maybe it's time to wake up. Now, I'm sure that the FBI, once they're through harassing people who borrowed envelopes at the Capitol, will be all over this, just like they were the false flag attack in Nashville. No, actually, you just forget about all these stories. I just make this stuff up. It doesn't matter at all. Go back. Here's the story that I left off. I was about to say sarcastically, go back to your comic books. American newspapers are dead. There's no point in reading them. Why they died doesn't matter. There's absolutely nothing in them except for the funny pages. For 40-something years, I've been a fan of the funny pages, like my dad and both my grandfathers before me. There's something refreshing and honest about Garfield, Blondie, Get Fuzzy when they can, make a new episode. All of these little short cartoons are great. I noticed something. I caught something a few weeks ago in a large regional newspaper that I had the misfortune of reading, only for the comics. I discovered that they cut out a couple of panels from Hagar the Horrible. So this weekend on Sunday, I got a copy and I went to Archamax and Go Comics where the comics are printed in full, and I checked, and Hagar, Blondie, Garfield, and Hi and Lois were all illicitly truncated. So if you take refuge on the funny pages, take it online, go straight to the source, because the print media, they're just, in place of, I noticed on that particular example, in place of running the 2 panels that they couldn't fit in, they ran a big ad for their newspaper. Hey, subscribe to us. Ignore the fact that we're cutting out the only material left worth reading. Make of that what you will. We'll be back with more exciting news as it unfolds across this country. Great country under great leadership right now. I hope to see you soon. Get over to the community, join up. And I'm out of time, but I've got some news about the community that I'll share with you soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.